A Lincoln property boom is forcing more people into renting homes. The Booton Park renewal is in jeopardy as more money is needed for the project. A TV licence clampdown hits students in Lincoln. And he's standing here after all this time. Elton John returns to Lincoln.
Good afternoon, this is LSJ Today and we're live from Lincoln. I'm Calvin Robinson.
And I'm Martin Hollinshead. We have 30 minutes of all the news from around the region, but first, our top story. It's reported that rental properties in Lincoln are in high demand after a 5.6% rise in house prices in the past year. Rachel Lowes has this report.
It's never been easy to get your foot on the property ladder, but it doesn't look like it'll get any easier in the near future either. Nationally, we have seen a steep rise in both rent and mortgage costs. Average rents in Lincoln currently stand at between £400 and £700 per calendar month. But according to Natasha O'Boyle from King & Co, this could be set to rise.
They are still rising and they have risen again, the same with house prices over the last 6 months because the demand is so much more now because people aren't getting as many mortgages. There's a lot more people looking to rent and which just pushes the prices up, so they will continue to rise for the time being.
With more and more people struggling to get a foot on the property ladder in what estate agents are calling a seller's market, we could see more and more streets like this one, which contain mostly rented properties. Now, whilst there are schemes out there like Help to Buy, with a 5.6% increase in property prices in the past year, people are still struggling to get a foot on that property ladder.
It's going to be difficult for people, or whichever way they decide to go. It's more difficult to get a mortgage, albeit there are a lot more deals at the moment. But all the time the rental prices are going up. There's a lot, it's going to make it more difficult to rent a decent property as well.
So with both rent and mortgage prices rising and Lincoln's rental market facing continual growth, it looks like for many, people will have to put up with those higher rent costs. Rachel Lowes, LSJ News.
A project to rejuvenate one of Lincoln's parks is stepping slowly forward towards its halfway mark. The Booton Park project has around £250,000 left to raise to meet its £3.7 million match funding. But with costs spiralling, some of the aims have been put to one side. Our reporter Kelly Pyatt has more.
Booton Park, a place of history that has been around since 1895, and one of beauty also. Set in 50 acres of parkland, both Linkage, a disability charity, and the City of Lincoln Council realised the Booton Park project will be a formidable task. The bandstand is one of the project's aims to rejuvenate the park. I spoke to Tony Barker from Linkage, who explained the project's aims.
But behind us here at Rookery Court, just at the edge of Booton Park, is where we plan to have a cafe, a horticulture centre, and also just beyond the building you see behind me there will be the education centre.
However, the lake will no longer be included in this plan.
Now, the original plan was to dredge this entire lake, but unfortunately this is now not going to be the case. The Booton Park project is already at an estimated £3.7 million, and to dredge the lake and the waterways surrounding it would cost another £900,000, which they said they simply could not afford to do.
There was no choice. That's what we were not given the choice, really. You know, it was a huge amount of money and we had to make sure that the project overall would go ahead, and I think Linkage and the council deserve enormous credit. For everybody out there, though, I can personally guarantee them that then there's no need for negative publicity. The lake will be regenerated.
Now, a huge problem with the Booton Park, with its 50 acres, is that vandals is a massive problem, particularly with litter. I mean, walking around today, we have seen empty glass bottles shattered on the floor and cigarette butts. And unfortunately, this very sad looking fountain has also attracted a huge deal of it, with empty litter in the water. Now, a huge part of it will be getting this fountain working again, and this is a big focus of the project, is to link the history of the park with the new. Behind us there is the old manor walls, and one of the person I spoke to told me fondly of how his memories of Bruton Park are helping him to look towards his future.
Really lucky to have my childhood here. My grandparents lived on Western Avenue. The house overlooked the tennis courts here on the park, and we spent every weekend here for about 12 years. And then of course it was at its wonderful best. You could take a boat on the lake, there was the steam train, you know, football in the park, the putting, the tennis, or just walk around the beautiful park.
So with work expected to start in 2017 and £100,000 expected to be raised by December, the future of Bruton Park looks set to continue. Dog walkers, families and members of the community can look forward to less vandalism and more sunshine. Kelly Pyatt reporting for LSJ Today.
Almost 150 young people in Lincoln were caught without a TV licence last year, facing a hefty fine or even prison. Undergraduate students make up a significant percentage of the figures, and broadcast authorities have warned people to buy a licence. Liam Ray reports.
The TV licence topic is back on the agenda, and new figures released have shown that lots of people in Lincoln have been caught without one. It seems that students and young people are the ones more susceptible to being caught, and TV licensing have once again warned that the risks of not having a TV licence can be punished with hefty fines or even prosecution. So when do students actually require a TV licence? Well, as is the case with most houses up and down the country, one is needed when they are watching live or recorded TV in their house. However, this changes when students are living in shared accommodation. If a student is watching live or recorded TV on a television, smartphone or tablet in their room, then a separate TV licence is normally required for that. However, if the shared accommodation is treated as one place shared by all, normally in a joint tenancy agreement, then only one TV licence is required. TV licensing has always been a contentious issue, with many people calling for it to be scrapped. There's various petitions online and even MPs are calling for a change, but for the time being, it seems as if TV licensees will stay in place, and it seems like young people in Lincoln are not the ones educated on the consequences. But can TV licensing do more to curb this problem?
We work hard with universities. We provide information for instance, Freshers Week packs. We provide student-specific literature. We hold a number of presentations throughout the year. We also look to gain a presence on university websites, and where universities have, for instance, student newspapers, where they have a student union, we put posters up in halls and so on. So there's a vast array of work that goes on throughout the year to make sure, as best we're able, that the message reaches young people in Lincoln. We're very aware that young people in Lincoln are early adopters of new technology, and the ways they're watching TV is changing. We don't target any one particular group within the community, but we do work hard to ensure that young people, students, understand the law.
TV licensing have a number of different ways to pay fees, including direct debits and payment-saving card schemes, and you can find out more about whether or not you need a TV licence on their website. Liam Ray, LSJ Today.
Now, Wildlife Crime Awareness Week is a national campaign aiming to highlight the different types of wildlife crime and how to report them. Our reporter, who's Lucy Hickmott, found out more.
Whether it's at the top of a tree or the bottom of a lake, nature is something that needs to be protected. And this is the aim of Wildlife Crime Awareness Week.
Lincolnshire Police is supporting the week-long campaign, which aims to raise people's awareness of the types of wildlife crime and how to report them. Some of the animals Lincolnshire Police have been focusing on this week are fish and fish poaching, deers, and also hare coursing, which is a particularly big problem in Lincolnshire.
I spoke to PC Nick Willey about the particular problems in our county.
Lincolnshire has its particular problems. We have a major problem with hare coursing around this time of the year. That is people coming into the county, running lurchers, sighthounds on hares in fields. It's illegal under the Hunting Act. It's also poaching offences. We also suffer with nighttime poaching, people running dogs on deer, not just for the sport but also the theft of deer carcasses.
Today's focus is on badgers, which are one of the most persecuted animals despite being protected under a 1992 Act of Parliament. So what should you actually do if you spot a wildlife crime taking place?
There's two ways of reporting wildlife crime. If it's something that's in progress, like we've got hare coursing, or we've got somebody who's walking down here and they're actively taking fish out of the river, then it's a crime in progress, and you can ring 999. Obviously deer poaching, if they've got firearms, becomes a lot more criminal offence. So it's 999 or 101. If it's non-urgent, then there's always, people can put stuff on Twitter, they can email myself and the Lincolnshire Police and just tell us that they've seen an incident or they think something's happening. It all adds to build that intelligence picture.
If you want more information on spotting wildlife crime, visit the Lincolnshire Police website. Lucy Hickmott, LSJ Today.
Sorry for the pitch quality there. Now, this week is National Adoption Week, and Lincolnshire County Council is highlighting the need for waiting children to find loving homes. In Lincolnshire, there is a particular need for adopters to care for children over the age of 4, those with additional needs and disabilities, as well as siblings who need to be kept together. Jamie and Ella Bird have 4 children, and they believe that their adopted son Sean has enriched their family household.
Now, to see 4 of them at bedtime, playing together, and to know that's, it's a very different family now, and a much, just a much richer family. And Sean is, he has got different interests from, particularly from Aaron. You can see they're going to be very different. Sean's going to be much more into football, and probably much more into music and things. Aaron's quite studious and a little bit serious. So for him growing up, you can see already, how it's going to. He's going to have a much richer childhood and adolescence having a brother like Sean.
The Bishop of Lincoln, Right Reverend Christopher Lawson, has joined 84 other Church of England bishops in an appeal to the Prime Minister to take more refugees. They have accused the government of an increasingly inadequate response to the migrant crisis and are calling for at least 50,000 Syrian refugees to be taken over the next 5 years. In a statement, the Bishop of Lincoln said, "Our concern is for the hundreds of thousands of people who live in constant and very real fear. As bishops, we believe that we should all respond to this real human need generously, and as a country, 20,000 people seems to not be sufficient when the simple matter is our common and shared humanity."
Next, the University of Lincoln has been awarded a £5,000 grant from the Magna Carta Trust to create a work of outdoor art for its campus. The poet laureate, Carol Ann Duffy, has written a poem to be the inspiration for the work. She will also be one of the judges for the competition, which closes on the 30th of December. Carol Ann Duffy has recorded her poem for the Magna Carta event. Here are a few lines.
Where a knight could kick off his boots to paddle in clover. The field had filled with tents, servants, banners, mounts, and being the girl of a villain who died unfree, I reckon this business had nothing to do with me.
2 Lincolnshire hospitals have found £1 million upgrades to their X-ray departments. The money came from the United Lincolnshire Hospital Trust. Lincoln County Hospital and John Coupland Hospital in Gainsborough now have access to fully digital X-ray images and radiography, helping doctors make faster diagnoses as well as improving patient care. Pictures can be ready within 3 seconds of being taken.
Owners of Vauxhall Zafira cars have been told to contact local dealers after a reported spate of the vehicles bursting into flames. Drivers of more than 130 cars made between 2005 and 2014 have claimed the fires start behind the glove box. Vauxhall has been investigating the problem for several months. Owners of burnt-out Zafiras have started a campaign on Facebook to highlight the issue.
And now here's the latest that's been happening in Westminster. MPs will today debate plans to introduce English votes for English laws. The plans could potentially allow MPs from English constituencies to veto any bill which affects England only. Ministers say the vote will deal with the long-standing West Lothian question, which means Scottish MPs can vote on issues relating to England, but the House of Commons cannot vote on similar issues in Scotland. Labour says the plans will create a 2-tier parliament. Elsewhere, tributes have been paid to long-serving Labour MP Michael Meacher, who died on Wednesday. Mr Meacher had been the MP for Oldham West since 1970 and returned the seat in the last general election with a majority of over 14,000. He had served as junior minister under Prime Ministers Harold Wilson and Jim Callaghan before serving under Tony Blair and retiring to the backbenches in 2003. Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn described Mr Meacher as a man of enormous breadth and intellectual vision. And finally, Prime Minister's questions was dominated by the government's plans to reform tax credits. The Prime Minister was forced to defend his plans after Jeremy Corbyn asked a question from a Conservative voter who was concerned that the reform to tax credits would hurt the poor most. Here's what he had to say.
The tax credit changes are part of a package, and a package that includes a higher national living wage and tax reductions. And I think that is the right approach for our country. Let's make work pay, let's allow people to earn more, let's cut their taxes, and let's make welfare affordable. And I'm delighted that once again this measure passed the House of Commons last night in a big majority.
The government has not changed its stance on tax credit reform, but faces backlash from some of their own members, including South Cambridgeshire MP Heidi Allen. That's all for now.
And now, here's the latest tech talk with Philip Wilson-Smith, starting with going Back to the Future.
Thanks, guys. Now everyone remembers the classic 80s time travel trilogy Back to the Future. Well, as of yesterday, the series is now officially set in the past. The film saw its characters travel forwards in time in a modified DeLorean so they could see their own futures in 2015. Our reporter, Owen Bellwood, went to find out just how accurate their predictions were.
What do you mean we're in the future? October 21st, 2015!
In the 80s, it seems so far away, but for us, it was just yesterday. That's the date Marty McFly and Doc Brown travelled to in Back to the Future Part 2, the second part in Robert Zemeckis' trilogy of time travel films. Since its release in 1989, the film has received a massive following, and many fans paid tribute to Back to the Future Day yesterday. Alex Levchuk explained to us what made the film so popular.
Robert Zemeckis clearly had actually tapped into some kind of movie magic. I mean, obviously he'd done the Romancing the Stone duo of movies and was also responsible for Who Framed Roger Rabbit. But in terms of tapping into the whole grandfather paradox, which science fiction fans are well aware of, what happens if you actually go back in time, prevent your parents from meeting, and therefore cease to exist. Back to the Future was the first popular culture movie that really started grabbing people's attention from that point of view. And it happened obviously in the 80s, where clearly excesses were very much to the fore, and you see that manifest hugely in the Back to the Future image of the future.
Hydrate level 4, please. Is it ready?
Part of Back to the Future has had a resonance. The interesting thing was the prediction of Pepsi Max, for instance, which emerged in 1993. But clearly we haven't got Jaws 19.
Shark still looks fake.
And there are other aspects such as hoverboards, which technologically, yes, they are there, they're out and about, but you don't see people actually flying around on hoverboards. In fact, actually it's illegal to use a hoverboard in Britain if you actually had one. So I see no reason why people will not continue to look back at Back to the Future with fondness, and who knows, probably actually even consider doing a remake or a sequel.
Back to the Future, Part 2.
Thanks, Owen. In other news, YouTube has announced that it will be starting its own subscription service. The service, dubbed YouTube Red, costs $9.99 a month and will give users access to original and exclusive content, including feature films. Several major YouTubers signed up to produce videos for YouTube Red, including games blogger PewDiePie and the production company Rooster Teeth. YouTube will launch a free trial in the US from the 28th of October and will be available elsewhere in the world shortly after. And finally, Apple have announced that newly encrypted iPhones are impossible to crack. The tech giant have claimed that even they would struggle to access encrypted data on the latest updates. The comment came after the Department of Justice asked Apple to help crack an iPhone seized as evidence. Apple are currently resisting unlocking the phone for authorities and claim that 90% of the devices running iOS 8 or higher cannot be unlocked. That's all for your tech news this week. Back to the studio.
And now it's over to Eleanor Weaver for our entertainment, and she has some exciting news about Elton John.
Indeed, there's a lot of excitement that Elton John is coming home to Lincolnshire, the county that's made him famous. It was a songwriter, Bernie Taupin from Market Raisin, that Elton John wrote his greatest songs. It's more than 40 years since Elton performed in Lincoln. He'll be at Lincolnshire Showground next June, and tickets have gone on sale today. But sticking with this week, and we have American rock band Wheatus performing in Lincoln as part of their 15th anniversary tour. The band behind Teenage Dirtbag will be performing at the Platform on Friday. They will be playing their entire self-titled album along with some of their other greatest hits. And finally, tonight metalcore band Asking Alexandria from York will take to the stage at Lincoln's Engine Shed. The band will be joined by Memphis Mayfire, August Burns Red and In Heart's Wake. The group has recently returned from touring in Germany. That's all for entertainment news this week. Back to you, Calvin and Martin.
Mojitos, pina coladas and sex on the beach. These traditional drinks were not on the menu last night as teams set out to create a new classic at a competition in Lincoln. Will Lomman went along to meet one of the budding cocktail chemists.
Here at the Straight and Narrow on Lincoln's steep hill, weird and wonderful drinks are the speciality. To celebrate this, 4 teams of 2 bartenders tried to convince the punters that their cocktail was the best. But how do you fall into this line of work?
I think it was either end of first year of uni or second year of uni. It was in 2012 when we initially opened the Straight and Narrow here. Like, you get to interact with different people every day, so it's a lot of fun and you sort of, I don't know, you just get a lot of I don't know, I say happiness from it. I think it's just like a really enjoyable job.
And this is what he's making. He calls it Mint Street, and he uses organic vodka, creme de menthe, creme de coco, elixir, bitter distillate, and half, topped with dark chocolate and mint. But what's his favourite cocktail?
It probably would be a mojito. It's sort of referred to in the bar trade as one of the awkward sort of drinks, or one of those drinks that's really standard. But I think it's a lot of fun because you can get a lot of sort of like customer interaction with it as well. Like, you know, you're slapping them in, you're really releasing the flavours, the scents, that sort of thing.
Marcus will be hoping that Mint Street wins the competition and is added to the menu, and he'll get to find out later when the winners are announced on the Straight and Narrow Facebook.
Let's have a look at what's been trending this week on the internet with our reporter Kat Talbot. So, what have we been talking about this week?
Well, there's certainly been a lot that's happening. Here are the top 5 viral moments of the week. At 5, we have a crowd favourite. The back-flipping hamster. His other furry friends really don't seem that bothered about his gymnastic skills, but we certainly are. At 4, we have a sanctuary in Syria that has 250 dogs. The sanctuary doesn't believe in cages, so they're all allowed to run free. In at number 3, we have the 71-year-old man who gets stuck in his seatbelt. It starts off pretty funny, but a few minutes in, he doesn't seem as calm about the situation. Coming in at number 2, we have Channing Tatum in a rather unusual form of Halloween fancy dress. The Magic Mike star dressed as Winnie the Pooh at his daughter's carnival this week. And finally, in number 1, we have Coco, the famous sign language speaking gorilla, with her 44th birthday presents. Coco picked out 2 new kittens from his litter, and it's just adorable. Apologies for the lack of videos in that video. That's all we have time for today. Back to you in the studio.
A tea room in Lincoln is being recognised for its exceptional quality and attention to detail in a county-wide awards ceremony. Henry's Tea Room, which is located upstairs in Ruddocks of Lincoln, has been shortlisted for Tea Room of the Year in the Select Lincolnshire Food and Drink Awards. Now, earlier today, I asked Mr. Ruddock himself about what it is that makes Henry's so special.
I think it is both what we do and the way we do it. We do a variety of lunches and we do our speciality afternoon tea, which we've had a number of people that said it's been better than Claridge's, which is nice. But yeah, we try and do a very good quality offer. I mean, for example, our Welsh Rarebit has a local beer in it, not much, but a little. and our omelettes are absolutely exceptional. They're not particularly slimming, but they are exceptional. So yeah, it's things like that which where we feel we can significantly improve, we do it. Yeah.
What sort of impact does it have on in terms of business downstairs? Does it sort of help to draw people in?
Well, that's a very good question. Basically, it's quite a big building, this, as you will have noticed, because you just walked through it. You came in through the downstairs, where we've got the cards, and we've got the stationery, we've got the gifts, and we've got the magazines, and further back we've got the toys. Did you notice them? Yep. And then you came up those lovely stairs, and you came into the paper room, where we've got all sorts of paper for graphic artists and artists, and then you come upstairs into the art department. We've got a lot of stuff, and we had these 2 rooms anyway. What do you do with them? And to cut a long story short, I decided to do what you see before you. If people are going to come to a place, they've got to have a reason. You know, they've got to want to come here, and when they get here, they've got to have their expectations fulfilled or even exceeded. So you've got to have a weight of opportunity. You've got to have enough stuff to attract people. So what I was trying to do, I was trying to give people a very good reason to come here, hoping, going back to your original question, that the more people came here, the more one would, forgive the pun, feed off the other, and that people would buy things and help to keep us afloat.
Are you hopeful that you might win these awards?
Absolutely. Well, absolutely, yes. Yes, absolutely. I mean, I think even being nominated with all of the competition there is, and I know there is a huge amount of competition for that one, I'm very, very proud to be on the shortlist, which is just 3 in total. If we did win it, that would be even better.
The awards ceremony is set to take place on October 27th at the Lincolnshire Showground, and tickets to the event can be bought from the Select Lincolnshire website.
Now to sport. Adam Thompson was at the Lincoln City press conference earlier today and has your latest sports news.
Since joining the Imps this summer from Mansfield Town, Matt Reid has scored 10 goals for the Imps this season so far and is their top scorer. Chris Moisey's side sits 1 point below the teams in the Vanarama National League playoff positions following their win over Braintree last weekend. But Reid believes the Imps' good form is down to the whole team's performances, not just the goal scorers.
Another tough game, you know. They're a really good side. They're sitting in 5th spot. They was in the play.
Now, Lincoln City turn their attentions to the FA Cup, where they face Tranmere Rovers in the 4th qualifying round. Their opponents were relegated from League 2 last season and currently sit 2 places above Lincoln City in the Vanarama National League. However, Chris Moises believes there is no pressure on his side this weekend. The Lincolnshire FA have announced they will host their first ever walking football festival in December. That's all for your sport. Back to the studio.
Now it's on to the weather with Lucy.
Thanks, guys. Well, we've had patchy sunshine and cloud today, and that will continue into the night with clouds overnight and a low of 8 degrees. Tomorrow it will be cloudy again with a high of 12 degrees, and into the weekend we're expecting some rain on Saturday with the clouds carrying on throughout the entire weekend. Back to you in the studio.
Well, that's all from the news team today, but before we go, here's a reminder of our top stories.
Rental properties in Lincoln are in high demand after a 5.6% rise in house prices in the past year.
Spiralling costs have been a regeneration scheme at Booton Park in jeopardy.
And superstar Until John is returning to Lincoln after over 40 years. You can catch all those stories again on lsjnews.co.uk or follow us on the Twitter at LSJ Tweets. And that's it from us. Goodbye.
A Lincoln property boom is